Wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web, this is Jeremy Geelan for SYS-CON TV here at 10th Cloud Expo, New York. With me is our old friend Henry Fastert. Well, not old, our firm friend Henry Fastert, Chief Technologist
right on both accounts.
and Managing Partner of SHI International. Hello, Henry.
Jeremy, pleasure as always.
I have kidnapped you on behalf of SYS-CON TV viewers, Henry, because I was obviously at your keynote because I introduced you. And there's one phrase that resonated with me, and I keep hearing people talk about it in the corridors. You talked at one point about this IT expectation gap. It's the sort of phrase that you think, wait, I think I know what that means, but let me just check what that meant for you.
So, so clearly, when you look at the average person who consumes IT services, they now consume them from two places. They consume them at work from their normal corporate sources, but they consume them from the consumer sources of IT. And in the past, the quality of those services that you received at work were always significantly higher than the consumer ones, and the consumer ones were very rudimentary. Well, over the last 5 years, there's been a real juxtaposition around that. And so the quality of the consumer services, IT services, is really beginning to eclipse what people are getting at work. And so as young people enter the workforce, or even as people who've been in the workforce for some period of time, start to view those services, they can't help but feel that what they're getting internally is not as sophisticated as what they're getting externally from the consumer services. So one of the things I talk about, we talked a lot about, the reasons why people want to move to cloud. And there are all the obvious reasons about reduced cost and total cost of ownership, and all of those things that we talk about on a regular basis. But there's actually, in my opinion, a more important reason. IT spends an awful lot of time designing, implementing, and managing physical infrastructure. You get no credit for doing any of that. The only credit you ever get for it is if it fails, and then you get negative credit. By moving those activities to a cloud provider, it allows IT to take their manpower and focus it on the things that are going to create sophisticated user interfaces, sophisticated integration, so that internal IT systems can now be at least the equivalent of external consumer systems, but more likely better. And so it's a tool to really harness your resources to apply them in areas of the business that really matter to the business. So
it will enable. I see that it'll free up bandwidth, manpower, resources, all the rest of it to focus on what is giving value. Is that a tougher sell though? Because it's quite nuanced. So how do you take that into the organization that was having the problem? I think
most organizations recognize this. I don't think they've given it a name. That term, the expectancy gap, is starting to come into currency. I've seen it in a few places, but I think everyone intuitively understands that. That expectation gap, they certainly hear it from young people coming into the workforce. So for the first time, you see them having to do training courses in Outlook. That never occurred because the people coming into the marketplace out of college have never used it. They've used a variety of other tools, and so I think anyone I've talked to this about, I've only started talking about this recently, just intuitively grasps it, understands the issues there, and the value of being able to harness their resources to apply to that task.
Is there any possibility, seeing as you mentioned email, is there any possibility that email would disappear? And if we were embracing this, we would say, well, clearly these young people don't want that. They want a variety of channels. Do you think that could be the future?
Absolutely. And again, the value that IT brings to a company is anything that assists its line of businesses. If you go back to the early days of computing, you go back to mainframe computing, very little of IT's time was spent on infrastructure. In many cases, they didn't even own infrastructure. They did something called time sharing, which starts to sound a little bit like cloud. And since they spent very little of their time, what did they spend their time on? They spent their time developing software, reviewing software, implementing software, and it's always software that provides value to the lines of business.
And interestingly, from a business intelligence perspective, all that value is locked in email anyway. Maybe it is the enemy.
Yeah. But even with the information there, your time is going to be far better spent doing big data analytics on unstructured data than it is building and supporting email systems. And so there are lots of higher level tasks that will add significantly more value to the business if we can just free IT from the drudgery of dealing with infrastructure.
Tell us about SHI, Henry, just while we've got you, because a lot of people have stopped me in the corridors and they've said, so this vision that we're hearing from Henry Fastert, what drives that? Why is he thinking about the future in this way? And what is it that SHI, what kind of platform has that given him to be far-seeing? What's the answer to that one?
So, SHI is, as most people know, a very large-scale reseller of products and professional services. So we've serviced the traditional IT marketplace for 23 years. Ty Lee, who is the president and owner of the company, wanted to extend SHI's capabilities along what appears to be the logical path of IT. And so, while there's still be people who are going to build and deploy physical infrastructure for some period of time, we wanted to be able to offer the complete continuum of products and services, from traditional infrastructure build, acquire products from us, software from us, professional services, right up through acquiring cloud services, so that no matter where a company was on the continuum of all this, we're in a position to provide the right mix of products and services for them.
So the vision is really coming all the way from the top.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's not an insignificant investment to become a cloud provider. Right. And so, Ty and I had a series of conversations, about 2.5 years ago, to decide about entering the cloud space and how we would integrate it into our ongoing business.
So if someone's following along and this is resonating with them and they want to connect with SHI Cloud, what's the best advice we can give them? Where should they go?
Oh, there's several ways. Obviously, if you're already an SHI customer, just approach your SHI sales representative. They'll help you engage with the cloud organization. If you're not, you can go to the SHI Cloud website, which is called SHI Cloud, or just the general SHI website. You can get access to our cloud solutions from any of those mechanisms.
There you are. 3 routes to the future. Thank you so much, Henry Fastert, for joining us from SHI International, and thank you from here on the show floor at 10th Cloud Expo for following along on the World Wide Web.